Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. In today's video, we're going to look at that episode from Season 2. It's been a long time coming, everyone wanted me to talk about it, so I might as well just get it out of the way now. Today's episode is titled Brawl in the Family. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. In this episode, Lincoln tries to resolve a fight between Lori and Leni, but not only does his actions continue the fighting after they had already made up, his other sisters, through their sister fight protocol, start making living in the house a struggle and eventually begin fighting as well. The episode ends with his sisters settling all their problems without the intervention of their brother, only to have Lincoln start the fighting all over again because he just can't keep his mouth shut about anything. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. I'm with everyone else when I say this is among the worst episodes of the entire series. It's not my pick for worst episode though. I already talked about that in Fool Me Twice, so feel free to check that out whenever you get the chance. Anyway, there's a lot that needs to be said, so let's just start with what triggered the first on-screen fight. Lori and Leni were mad at each other because they each bought the same dress, and neither one of them was going to return the one they bought. As stupid as it is to fight over clothes, I can tell you from first-hand experience, I've witnessed girls in my high school years fight over things just as stupid as this. I once witnessed two former classmates sniping at each other and throwing shade about how the other bought the same shoes as them, and it was the dumbest thing ever. So yeah, I understand what Lori and Leni were going through, but even I have to admit it was ridiculous. Change of Heart shows how they can each wear each other's clothes, so it's not like the two dresses they bought were different sizes, as far as we know. What would have been the big deal if one of them returned the dress they bought if they knew they could wear the same size? We don't know who ended up returning theirs, but it was clear by the end Lori outsmarted Leni, as if that's even a challenge, by saying she can wear the dress on days that end in Y, and Leni gets to wear it the rest of the time. A very confusing agreement, but whatever works. I don't believe that was the agreement they made earlier in the episode when they had already hugged it out the first time, but no matter the resolution, they made amends and their sisters knew it wasn't their place to get involved, which brings me to the sister fight protocol. The weirdest thing about this protocol is that it's very inconsistent throughout the series, and for a brief moment it was broken by the sisters in this episode, but I'll touch upon that in just a bit. This protocol was never brought up in previous episodes like Space Invader, where Lincoln got involved in a fight between Lynn and Lucy while the other girls kept their distance. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember if this protocol is brought up again in episodes following this one. I'd have to go back and check, but either way, it goes up and beyond to make sure everything and everyone remains calm, and it's poorly executed. From the girls dressing up as airport marshals to direct the traffic so as to avoid someone making eye contact with someone else, to having two separate dinners so the parents don't think they're playing favorites, is just... seriously? It really makes you wonder how often this happens, and I would prefer to never find out. Even Lisa's threat level chart came off as stupid, but the fact even Bobby knows how serious the Lao sisters fighting can get is something crazy. Anyway, the central rule of the sister fight protocol is very simple. Stay out of the business of whoever's fighting and let them work it out on their own. However, Luna and Luann broke their own rule when they started fighting over Lori or Leni having the dress first, after Luna spent the night talking to Lori and Luann with Leni. Rather than just letting their sisters vent and keep themselves out of the problem, they took sides and made the problem worse. They just couldn't keep their own rule consistent for one episode. It's funny how the parents respect this protocol enough to not play favorites, but Luna and Luann didn't feel the same way. Unfreaking believable. And no, Lola, Lincoln shouldn't be the one paying for new shocks. Luna and Luann interjected themselves into the fight when they weren't supposed to, therefore making them responsible for whatever damage your princess car ends up taking. As you can already imagine, everything continued to spiral out of control once Lola and Lana got into a fight over directing their sisters to the red and green zone. And if Lynn and Lucy going at it wasn't bad enough, the level-headed Lisa was soon involved in the giant fight cloud as well. It's amazing how all of this transpired because of one person, the true enabler of the conflict. Lincoln! Yup, I said it. Just like No Such Luck, Lincoln was the cause of the problem, so now we have to talk about him. First off, I sympathized with him when the episode started. He wasn't allowed in the kitchen, the bathroom, or watch a monster truck rally, even if it was muted, all because his oldest sisters were cooling down from a fight. I also believe he was unfairly treated when his bedsheets were used as a divider in Lori and Leni's room, and how his room became an off-limits safe zone. I'll also go far as to say him suggesting his 4 oldest sisters having a temporary room swap for the night wasn't exactly a bad idea. Luna said he was playing with fire, but she and Luann were the ones who both played with and threw gasoline on said fire when they started taking sides. Lincoln didn't think that would happen, so I don't fault him for his 3rd and 4th older sisters fighting. That fault lies solely on them, but that doesn't mean he's off the hook. As stupid and inconsistent as the sister fight protocol is, the fact is he was told to not get involved and he did the exact opposite. He dropped some truth bombs on his sisters about what they say about each other behind their backs, and he pretty much reignited the flame after it was already out. You could argue by saying he didn't know the fight was over and didn't think he was hurling rude remarks at anyone, but when you think about what Lori said about Leni and vice versa, it did seem like insults were being made, and I can see why these 2 girls started fighting all over again. When you really think about it, everything that took place for most of the episode could have been avoided if Lincoln had just stayed out of everyone's business. He tells Clyde this protocol only makes things worse, yet it seemed to be working just fine before he confronted Lori and Leni. As a side note, I want to quickly acknowledge how Lincoln's sisters always get involved in his problems, yet they don't want their brother involved in theirs. My only guess is his sisters are very maternal towards their brother, so that may have played a role in why they were so overprotective and over-nurturing of him during the first season. As for Lincoln being told to back off from their fights, well, I'm not entirely sure, but once again, going based on my experiences, I was always told as a guy to never get involved in a cat fight. Maybe that's the same reason for this series, I don't know, but that's hardly the point in the grand scheme of things for this episode. So given everything that happened to his family, what's Lincoln's plan to put things right? By saying he's going to talk sense into his sisters. I'm sorry, but what kind of solution is that? He saw what happened when he tried to resolve their initial conflict when he was told to stay out of it, and his bright idea to resolve this even bigger conflict is to get involved again? Did he seriously not learn anything through this ordeal? It was really looking that way. Fortunately, for a brief moment, everyone had worked out their problems when their brother was gone, and everything went back to normal. So indeed, Lincoln realized how this protocol does work after all, and yet how does the episode end? He promises to keep his mouth shut about what his sisters say about each other behind their backs after opening his mouth about what his sisters say about each other behind their backs. You know, I don't understand why everyone was fighting when only Lisa, Lynn, Lola, and Lana were mentioned in the conversation, but still, really? That's the ending they were aiming for? All I can say is keep that toilet bucket clean. It's going to be getting a lot of use, that's for sure. Good going, Lincoln. Good going. Overall, this episode is exactly what it is, a total and complete train wreck. Besides the parents, Lily, and Bobby, everyone else in this episode was just bad. It may have been a stupid fight in the beginning, and everything that happened afterwards as a result of breaking the sister fight protocol was beyond words, PG words mind you, but all of it could have been avoided if Lincoln had just stayed out of it like he was told to in the first place. Again, I felt bad for him at certain points, but he restarted a problem that was already settled and was just about to continue it after talking to Clyde. Even after he learns his lesson, his big mouth disrupted the harmony again and the conflict picked up where it left off. Luna and Luann shouldn't have taken sides, and their actions eventually led to an all-out fight cloud over a whole bunch of nonsense. The only thing I like about this episode that prevents it from being on the same level as Fool Me Twice is the takeaway message. When you see two people fighting and it doesn't involve you and they don't want your help regardless of how you may feel, it's honestly in your best interest to let these people work things out on their own and don't get involved unless it's absolutely necessary. The entire story had a very dissatisfying way of illustrating that message, but just remember how things trickled down as the plot moved forward, and we all know who's to blame. Everyone! With that said, I give Brawl in the Family a 1.5 out of 10. Well, folks, that concludes my review of Brawl in the Family. This was another example of how Lincoln can be both the victim and the villain of the same episode, even if some of what happens to him is not all his fault. But when you see how he conducted himself in this episode, you can understand why I have my problems with him and why he doesn't always get my sympathy. His sisters had their problems in this episode as well, but I should just end it here before this rant of a review starts starts all over again. So what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.